blew his guts out, man. Blew his brains and blew everybody's brains out on that one, man. I mean, we laid down some great stuff that recording too. And me and Mike were just talking. There's a whole nother tape of of both of those. There's a whole nother tape of both of those recordings of just the Defrosters without Joe that still have not even been looked at very much yet. In fact, we're talking about doing a little release of our own stuff here in the near future. I don't know. We're still talking about it.
I was just about to say, any unreleased stuff of you guys with Joe, would you guys plan on?
We were just talking about that too, Robert. I got
at least 3.
Yeah, we got a live board recording right from the
Yale Hotel in Vancouver, which is like their House of Blues up there. It's awesome recordings, man. Another we caught the band live, man, and we were not holding back on any of that stuff. There was a couple of Mike was writing some really brilliant stuff then, not that he does it now, but he wrote some really brilliant stuff back then, man, that people had never even really heard because they never really heard us play that stuff even around here because we didn't play around here that much. A few gigs between tours is all we ever did in L.A. in those days, man, or around the L.A. area. And, yeah, we got a lot of stuff just sitting in the can that, we could still, and we own all that stuff. Me and Mike have our, nobody owns it but us. We produce it and we own all the rights to it. So, yeah, we're still talking about maybe doing some stuff. We just found a great place to do product very reasonably.
It would definitely make for some good tribute albums to Joe.
Well, I don't know if it would be a tribute album. It'd be more like just another release, I mean, back in the day, you didn't release stuff very much after people died, but now they do that. I mean, Eddie Kramer was telling me he's got over 200 hours of Jimi Hendrix stuff that's never been released, man. And, of course, he just put out a new Jimi Hendrix album, just came out a couple of months ago, of all original stuff that nobody had ever heard before. That just goes to show you what can be done, with the new digital. The way we do digital now, man, you can pull off some magic stuff that we couldn't do before with analog.
So, what were the tours like with Joe? Because I know Mike had mentioned on Facebook when he graciously promoted the show today that you guys were going to be telling some stories in the van with Joe.
Oh Lord, Robert!
There were some days there.
We're trying to figure out which are suitable for the air, man.
Yeah,
man, it was so.
We're gonna write a book so we can write it down because we can't say all that stuff on the air.
it was so, and we want to give this, to the old man.
Yeah.
He got in the van with us. We did all that touring in like a minivan, a Ford Aerostar, the Astrocraft. We burned through about 6 vans.
Yeah, we had a big Crimson coach for a long time.
And it was like, we did a lot of miles, and he would get in there, and he, for the most part, he was okay, but you put anybody in those kind of close quarters and
pretty soon
and low budget conditions.
People are getting cranky.
Yeah, it's gonna.
We used to joke about being on the road with your cranky old uncle.
Yeah.
And then he's black. He reminds you of that all the time, man. We had
a lot of stuff, man. That just stuff. And Joe would say, everything happened on the road, man. That was.
Joe said, if you want to find out what's wrong with your band or your van, take it on the road. You'll find out right away. It'll show up right now, man. All of it.
And
sometimes I'll put it once.
And
there were times we broke down out in the middle of nowhere. I'm talking about one time we broke down and we broke a fan belt or something up in the desert, up in the high desert, man. It was 105,000 degrees out in the middle of nowhere. And our drummer at the time, who we called Frankenstein, there's a long story about that, he hitchhiked into Lancaster and comes back with the belt and puts it on, man. I mean, that's the kind of stories that go along with it. We broke one down one time over in Colorado, out in the middle of nowhere on this side of the mountains, over by Junction City, and we had Neil the Squeal Shelton hanging out with us on the road, and he climbs under the van and starts working on it right there by the side of the highway. One time we went to San Francisco and the starter went out, and we got towed into the gig in San Francisco because Joe had a 200-mile AAA card, so we got towed to the gig and dropped in front of the gig over on Pier 49, Pier 48.
That was Biscuits and Blues.
That was no, that was another 48. Yeah, that was another time. Yeah, no, Pier 48, and Squeal climbs under the van and starts working on it, and there's all this like crab juice and stuff coming out of the place that's going down the drain. And by the time he got through working on the van, Neil smelled like he'd been working in a crab shack, man. And it was hilarious. We had so much fun doing that. I mean, even the breakdowns and stuff turned into hilarious episodes sometimes, man.
And I was just about to ask about some of the places you guys played at, but you kind of named off a whole bunch right there.
3 months at a time, dude.
We would we traveled extensively in the Southwest, like from from here through Texas, in the Pacific Northwest, up and down the West Coast, in the Midwest, and then and across Canada.
The Canadian circuit.
Yes, yeah, we did. We would spend months at a clip up in Canada.
And we played 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 12 gigs right in a row, 1-nighters and 2-nighters and 3-nighters up there, man. I mean, the Canadians are fun people, man. They'll go out every night of the week and drink beer and party. And we'd play Monday night in a little teeny town, and there'd be 2 feet of snow on the ground in a place that only held 50 people, and there'd be 200 people in there drinking a beer in each hand because Canadians go, oh, we got one hand for each beer, eh? That's how they live. And, that was the most lucrative circuit I ever worked. I worked that same circuit with Albert Collins back in the 70s. And some of those gigs that I worked with Albert are still there today because every little town in Canada has a couple of bars in it, and one of them's a blues bar, and they'll have music 7 nights a week, every night in the week if you want, and people will come. That's the best circuit I've ever worked. Europe's the same way, but Canada, we can drive there.
Now, Mike, I want to ask you, because it's been well documented how you decided to make Joe your son's godfather, and I want to ask you, and Mark, you can also answer this as well. How close were you guys? How close were you guys with Joe?
Well, like I said, he was my son's godfather, and
Uncle Joe.
My son called him Grandpa. He
was our Uncle Joe, man. Yeah. Period.
Because close as you get, spending the better part of a year, a couple of feet away from somebody,
from each other.
Yeah, and he was I consider him my musical father, and let me tell you about that, Robert. We were in San Francisco one time, and he and I, the van was in a shop as it happens, and he and I had to take the bus to pick it up. So he and I are sitting at a bus stop in San Francisco.
I don't know this.
You were on this trip. This is the one where
This is the one where I had to come back to L.A.
This is the one where they had to tow us into Biscuits and Blues.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So we're sitting at a bus stop, and my kid's mom had just gotten pregnant, and I hadn't even told no one. And he turns to me, and goes, "Hey man, why you didn't tell me you were going to have a kid?" I go, "Joe, because I just found out, And I go, I was waiting for the right time because I was going to ask you to be his godfather." And he said, "That, of course I will." He says, "And here's what you do: when you're going to have a son, and he's going to be a fine, healthy boy. And what you do is when you get him out of the hospital, you take him to the highest, place around where you're at, and you hold him up and you tell, and you say, and you offer him back to God and say, "This is thank you for the most precious gift ever, Lord, and in gratitude I give him back to you." And he goes, and your son will always be with God, and so that's what I did. That's like an old country thing, I guess, and it is. And I did, and
country stuff,
and just like you, Robert. Mason's a solid kid, man. He's
yeah, he is.
I'll tell you one other thing, Robert. He would have loved you.
Yeah,
he would. Man, you would have. You and him would have got on, and he would have loved the prophets,
Oh, he would have loved your daddy too, man.
Yeah. So that was. Anyway, brother.
Because I remember, I think it was about 2011 when the El Dorado had that benefit for Joe, and we were all there. But by the time we left, Joe wasn't there yet. They hadn't gotten Joe there, and it was really, for me, it was kind of weird because I wanted to see Joe just so I could at least talk to him, before leaving. But unfortunately, he didn't get there until after we left.
Yeah, well, man, that was one of the very last times he got out in public. He had.
By that time, he was pretty hard to.
Man, I'll tell you what, that old man, he hung in for a long time.
Even after he had the stroke, he was tough. He was still a tough guy, man.
And that's.
I was playing New Year's Eve at that Vets Hall over there in, where was that at, Mike? Over there in Norwalk, yeah. The one over in Norwalk. I was playing with me and Jill Sharp were playing the New Year's Eve gig there, and Eric Bratsfield. And Joe calls me up the day we're playing. Joe calls me up. He says, "Hey, man, you guys playing?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're playing over at that hall in Norwalk tonight." "Well, I'll see you over there." I'm like, "Oh, okay, man." By this time he wasn't walking. He had to be in a wheelchair, and I didn't think no more. I thought, okay, whatever. I said, "You want me to come pick you up?" He goes, "Nah, man, I got to ride." I'm like, "Okay." So we're in there playing, and the door swings open. We're in there setting up, and the door swings open, and here comes Joe in his wheelchair, all decked out, man, in one of his suits with the hat on and the whole thing, man. I mean, he was decked out, and he's got some babe pushing the wheelchair in that incidentally was a stripper chick that he met somewhere, and she brings him down to the gig and wheels him in there, and he got up there to play with us. And at this point, after the stroke, he had a hard time kind of remembering where everything was at, time-wise. He kind of lost track of the words and all that. So I would stand right next to him, and we'd start playing, and when it was time for him to sing, I'd tap him on the shoulder, and he'd start singing. And then when it was time to stop, I'd tap him again, and he'd stop singing. And we did a gig with him. In fact, there's some video of that Jill shot and pictures and all that. I'll post them on Facebook one of these days again. And that was about the last time I saw the old man play. Now, he did a couple of gigs after that, but it was really hard because he would get out in public and didn't, because he was in a hospice type care thing. I mean, everybody knows what that means. He wasn't really able to be out there for very long. He could be out there for about a half an hour, maybe an hour, and then he'd have to leave, man, because of whatever, I don't know, maybe it just got to be too much for him, probably did, But that was how he was at the last, man. He was a tough old guy, man. You couldn't hold that guy down. I mean, and what he used to say, Mike, ain't nobody gonna stop me from playing. I can play with anybody. Ain't nobody ever gonna stop me from playing. That's what he said.
And there you go. When you guys were playing with Joe, was there ever times when he would bring out special guests like, say, Big J McNeely or any of those guys that were from that same era as him?
Everybody and anybody.
We played. Jay came to to that benefit at the El Dorado and played. You know,
a couple other times for things too, man.
Which was real hip, and
he came to Boomers one time too when we were hosting the jam there.
And we'd run into people on the road, like Philip Walker and
anybody that
and Bilbo Walker and Johnny Walker, not
and red or black, and Don Johnson and Tony Coleman and Russ Malone, the cats from B.B. King's band, Chris Layton. Yeah,
One
time we were playing at the Continental Club in Austin, and Fran Christina from the Thunderbirds came in. Joe's like, "We gotta get Fran up here." Yeah, man. He got up there and played with us for a couple of tunes.
Yeah,
gave Carl Bass a lesson in how to play drums, man. And who didn't really need a lesson, but
good, some great players.
And then there was all the local cats. I mean, anybody that wanted to get up with Joe, all they had to do was ask him, and then he'd be like, "Yeah, man, come on, man. They could be terrible player." He'd still get them up there and let them sit in, man. Everybody's got to get a chance, man.
We did a lot of gigs in like East Los Angeles, Monterey Park and Pico and everywhere. Because Joe had a huge
lowrider crowd, man,
following, and everyone remembered him from El Monte Legion Stadium, and so
all those shows he did with Huggy Boy back in the day, and it was
Art LeBeau.
It was top 40, Art LeBeau, top 40 radio. Joe was like one of the kings of top 40 radio around here.
So we did a lot of gigs with like El Chicano and Tierra and the Midnighters
and a lot of those old soul bands from the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, we were one time, Robert. We were coming from Washington to Mount Hood, Oregon.
Yeah,
and
Mount Hood.
We were talking about Mary Williams, who was this woman that Joe had worked with, who was leading a version of the Shirelles, which was kind of there were no original members or anything, but she was calling it the Shirelles.
This was in the 90s,
and this is with they were backed by the Box Tops, who was no one that was in the Box Tops
except one guy.
Yes, and so he was telling us about it. We pull up to this place that we're going to play. We're playing the next night. We got
it was
there
just a one-nighter.
We got there a day early, and we go to check in, and who's there at the desk but Mary Williams. And the Shirelles, and they're booked that night, but Box Tops never showed up. They were stuck, and so she said, "Will you guys back us up?" So we did. We went and
that was with Tim Allison on guitar.
Yeah, we learned their top tunes, in her room before the gig, and we went out there and we did a Joe Houston and the Defrosters and the Shirelles gig.
Cool.
Yeah, stuff like that was always happening.
One more question before I start playing some of Joe's most famous tunes. What do you guys think his legacy will be?
Well, he was one of the cats, that was there and helped invent rock and roll, man.
In the beginning,
when
Little Richard,
when R&B turned into early rock and roll,
and Little Richard and the tenor, he was there. The
tenor saxophone was like the lead guitar of that particular time.
It was,
and they were the stars. They were the showmen, the wildmen. They created that vernacular, man, and that style, and it still holds up today.
And they all called Joe up to be on their records. That's what he was telling us.
Yeah.
Little Richard Penniman would call him up. Joe Houston, get down here and play a solo on my record. And he'd go down there and play a solo,
Joe did a record with Little Richard when Jimi Hendrix was in his band.
Yeah.
He did an album with Richard and Hendrix.
Jimmy James.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Joe said he was staying down the hall when Janice died, he was staying down the hall from where she died at
the Landmark.
At the Landmark, yeah.
Oh, wow.
He was there when all that happened, man. He used to tell us stories about. I knew Janice myself a little bit, and he used to tell us all these stories about being around her and all that. He was really back in the '60s, man. He was in all those gigs, man, the Fillmore and all those places. He'd go in there for a night or a sit-in or being a special guest or whatever. He used to tell us stories about all that stuff, man. He had some great road stories. Mike remembers all that. I can't remember a lot of them.
Well,
I can't remember a lot of our road stories anymore. But then I'm 800 years old, too, now. So.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much for calling in and telling some really, really great stories about your time with Joe.
Well, it's always an honor for me to be on the radio or any interview, man, to share with people what's really going on. This is the truth about music, truth about show business, man. This is what really happens. Everybody's got an idea of what goes on. It's great to be able to share it with everybody.
And I always say, I usually say this in my outro, but for you guys, I want to say this. You got your auto parts, you got your broken china, you got your imitation Persian rug, all straight from the Blue Junkyard now.
What an honor, man!
I'll tell you what, Holmes. That's entirely appropriate. And, at least we're at the top of the junkie.
Yeah, and we're Junkyard dogs. Yeah. So there. Whoa.
Well, before you guys go, I do want to ask, because I asked what you guys thought Joe's legacy was going to be. Since you guys were a big part of Joe's band, what do you guys think your legacies are going to be? Or do you think they just started?
That's a good question, Robert.
That's a great question.
I'm just the piano player.
Yeah, I'm just a bass player, bro.
I'll tell you what. The one thing I'm very, very much grateful for is that we got to play and learn from the cats from that were there, and
the real old guys, and
there's sure not too many of them left, man.
Well, when I first started first started playing this kind of music in 1963. A lot of those old guys were still around, man.
He's a lot older than I am. A lot older than I am. A lot. Let me stress that. St. John's a lot older than
you. Don't have to use that many lots, dude. But yeah, there's a lot of lots in there, man. Yeah. Actually, folks, I'm going to be 75 here in a couple of months.
God damn, that's old.
Yeah, it is, man. And I look better than you, though, and at least I can walk straight.
Oh, shoot. That's because you're too high.
Yeah, well, at least I don't gimp anymore.
Yeah, you got.
See, that's where we're at. Me and Mike are roommates, man, for life. I think, man.
You guys got Pat Graham dying over here.
Yeah.
Hey, Pat.
Really?
Hi, guys.
Well, what's up?
Telling some great stories.
Hey.
Oh, thanks, man.
Well, I want to thank you
come
guys
on your show and talk shit too, man.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much for for doing this, and of course we're gonna keep Joe's legacy going, and that's why I figured who better to tell some stories of Joe than you guys.
That's right. We can lie better.
We can lie better than anybody, man. Right. We learned how to lie from that.
We learned to lie from Joe. Here's Joe. I ain't lying.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure he wasn't.
Well, thank you.
It's a pleasure, Robert, being able to be here, man.
Thank you guys.
Much.
Yeah, tell your pops I said, hey, man.
I will. And actually, he's listening, so you can tell him yourself.
Hey, fucker, how you doing, Tommy? We'll be at the James Harmon benefit on the 22nd at the Gaslamp.
Yeah, I'll be hanging with you guys there, big shot.
And of course, at the Riverside West Coast Blues Festival.
That's right.
And actually, while I got you guys on, I do have a big announcement for the Riverside West Coast Blues Festival, which I'll do a promo for in just a little while. I am going to be the special guest MC for the festival.
Stay down.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Robert. Good for you. Go. Good for you, man.
So thank you guys.
Kiddo.
Righteous, brother.
Thank you guys for
happy belated birthday, Robert.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much.
Okay, buddy. Thanks for having us, man.
Thank you guys.
Yep.
And I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right.
See you, man. Slam the door on the van.
All right, guys. That was Mike Malone and Mark St. John from the Defrosters, a.k.a. the Joe Houston Band. I thank them so much for calling in and telling some great stories. We got about close to a half hour left in the show, so we're going to get straight into our Sanford Files Spotlight. Here's Joe Houston's Rockin' and Boppin' album. We're going to kick things off with his most famous tune, All Night Long, right here on 22 West Radio at 22westmedia.com.
Come on, taxi, let's go, go, go.
And that was our Sanford Falls Spotlight for this week. Joe Houston with the album Rockin' and Boppin', the fabulous Joe Houston, Rockin' and Boppin'. Songs we just heard were Offbeat, Goofin', Tall Gal Blues, Boogie Woogie Woman, Go Joe Go, Rock That Boogie, Rockin' and Boppin', and his most famous tune, All Night Long. That's off the fabulous Joe Houston Rockin' and Boppin' album, released in 2015 on Southland Records. Once again, want to thank my special guests, Mike Malone and Mark St. John from the Defrosters, for calling in and telling some really, really great stories of their time with Big Joe Houston. I was almost going to say Big Joe Turner, but no, it's Joe Houston. I got some promos I want to do here. October 6th, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. at the White Park in Riverside, California. It's the 3rd annual Riverside West Coast Blues Festival. On the festival this year, we got Rod Piazza and the Mighty Flyers and Rick Estrin and the Nightcats headlining the show. We also got the Mighty Mojo Prophets with special guests, the Ice Pick James Harmon, Big Sandy of the Fly Ride Boys, the Junior Watson Band, Kid Ramos with Johnny Ramos and Jaylene De Leon, Pacemaker and the All-Star Review, Buddy Reed and the Rip It Ups, Abby Girl and the Real Deal, the Chris Fast Band, the Brett Miller Blues Band, and Infinite Soul with Gina Graham. That's all going down October 6th. October 6th at 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. at White Park in Riverside, California. Like I mentioned earlier, while I was on the line with Mike Malone and Mark St. John, I will be the special guest MC for the festival. It's going to be a really, really fun day of blues. Also coming up September 22nd in Hollywood at the Ford Theater. It's going to be the K-Jazz Hollywood Blues Festival, or Hollywood Blues Bash, if I can say that right. James Harmon and James Harmon's Bamboo Porch Review and the Mavis Staples Band will be on the show. Tickets are on sale right now at Ticketmaster.com. We also have July 22nd, or July 22nd. If I can find my poster here. It's the Bluesapalooza benefit for the Ice Pick James Harmon, Sunday, July 22nd, at the Gas Lamp in Long Beach. Starts at 12 noon. There's a suggested $20 donation at the door. The acts that will be on the show will be, of course, James Harmon's Bamboo Porch Review with Nathan James and the Rhythm Scratchers, featuring Bone Daddy Mike Tempo, Kid Ramos and the 44s, the Atomic Road Kings, the Mighty Mojo Prophets, Adriana Marie, L.A. Jones, and Big George. The Juicers with San Pedro Slim, the Amazing Wildcats, and Barry G and Greasefire. That all goes down. I cannot talk today. That all goes down Sunday, July 22nd at the Gas Lamp for James Harmon's Bluesapalooza benefit. All proceeds go to help out James Harmon, who's going through some rough times right now. He really needs the help of the entire blues community for this one. And tomorrow, July 13th, if you're going to be in the Phoenix, Arizona area, I highly recommend you go to the Rhythm Room, because the Healers are going to be there. Johnny Main, Henry Carvajal on guitars, Michael Hightower on the bass, Chef Dennis on harmonica, J.R. Lozano on drums, and Big Son Tommy Eliff on the vocals. It's going to be a really, really fun night tomorrow at the Rhythm Room in Phoenix, Arizona. Mr. Pat Graham, what you got coming up on the Blues Highway? I know it's a special day for both of us here.
Yeah, it's a great day for me. The 4 o'clock hour, I am going to welcome Kid Ramos and Johnny Ramos to the Blues Highway. They are going to be live and in living color right here in the studio with me. And Kid's new album is Old School, so I'm going to play as much of that for you as I can. And going to have a real nice chat with the legend Kid Ramos and his son, who really knows his way around the guitar and has got a great voice too.
Well, that's all coming up in less than 10 minutes right here on 22 West Radio at 22westmedia.com. We're going to keep things going, though, because the Blue Junkyard we're not closed for business just yet, are we, Pat?
No. We have a lot more music to share.
Coming up, right? I am having a hard time speaking today, Pat.
We have days like that, huh?
Coming up right now, we got George Thorogood and the Destroyers with High Heel Sneakers from their 2011 album 2120 South Michigan Avenue. You're listening to the Blue Junkyard right here on 22 West Media at
22 West
22westmedia.com. That was George Thorogood and the Destroyers with High Heel Sneakers from their 2011 album 2120 South Michigan Avenue. Well, that's about it for me this week. I want to thank my guests one more time, Mike Malone and Mark St. John from the Defrosters, the Joe Houston Band. Thank you guys so much for the interview, and thank you for tuning in to the Blue Junkyard. As Pat's and I's good old friend George Middleton always says, thank you so much for streaming in. Go out and hear some live music and have a real large week. You got your auto parts, you got your broken china, you got your imitation Persian rug. Now it's time to pack them into Pat Graham's car and travel down the Blues Highway. But it's time to travel down the Blues Highway. I'm losing my mind here. We're going to close things out with Kat Riggins from her brand new album, In the Boys Club. Here is the song Live On, right here on 22 West Media at 22westmedia.com.
They say tomorrow's not promised. Let's live like there's only today. Come on. Live on, keep spirit in your life. Someday the truth is, we're all gonna die, so just keep living like this life is come and gone. Everything he owned on his back. He had a smile from ear to ear on his face, and I thought, why can't everybody smile like that? Yeah, I thought, smile on, keep joy in your life, 'cause one day the truth is, we're all gonna die, so just keep smiling like tomorrow's not your own. Smile on, baby, smile on. Almost every song. I used to wonder where a woman so old got such energy. I hope I could be that way when I was grown. She taught me dance on, the music in your life. One day the truth is, we're all gonna die, so just keep dancing like you're dancing your last song. Dance on, baby, dance on. My little brother when he was 9. His mother was my daddy's biggest sin.